Hey, how you doing? Thought I'd make a little short video. I saw this meme on YouTube, and I had to I cracked up. I mean, you know, people think they're so clever when they make these memes, and they're really just showing their ignorance, and it's reinforcing the collective hive mind groupthink. Um, it's a it. I'm not really sure where I want to go with this, but the issue here is let me ask you, can you personally end the Federal Reserve in your life? See, the issue is most people don't understand the power that they have, or that they themselves or their parents who were legal guardians when they were minors. It's all of this that everybody's bitching about. The guy that created this meme is he bitches all the time about everything. But what most people don't think about, because they've been trained up like a Borg hive mind collective groupthink, is that you're not in the position you're in as a voluntary bondservant, a vassal, a neo-feudal serf, a numbered human resource taxpayer, employee, employer in the stream of commerce under civil law, under civil commercial law. The positive will of your God, called the state or United States or wherever you live. You made all of these choices yourself to bind yourself. The collective, the voting body politic, and then the legislative body that takes that will of the collective does not bind you. It just creates the things that under positive law, the will of the legislature, civil law, which goes back to ancient Babylon, Rome. All of these civil law body politics make their own law, which is their own. They're their own gods. This is why the law of God says, "You shall have no other gods in front of, instead of, in place of, before the Creator." Because the higher form of law is this law of nature and nature's God, where you're free. But when you cross over a jurisdictional boundary line and start operating in another form of law, you change your God. There's an old adage: if you change your God, you change your law. If you change your law, you change your God. Now, the question that I asked is, can you end the Federal Reserve in your life? Yes. How do you do that? Well, you stop using all Federal Reserve banking system services. You know, can you end having a cell phone? Sure. How do you do that? You get the hell rid of your cell phone and you don't ever go buy another cell phone and pay for cell phone services. There, you just ended the cell phone in your life. The same for the Federal Reserve. If you don't want to do business with the Federal Reserve or with banks, you stop banking. You close your bank accounts. You close your credit card accounts. You don't get a loan. You do all you operate financially under common law, natural law precepts rather than civil commercial law. Now, here's the next important question. Can you end the Federal Reserve for your neighbor? See, this is where the Borg hive mind comes in and why you can't fix anything, because every person, which is a legal fiction under civil law. Man is a term of nature, natural law, person of the civil law, maxim of law. All men or all persons are men, all persons are men, but not all men are persons. I'm not a person, I killed my person. And you can too. But I can't kill your person for you, just like I can't close your bank accounts for you. I can't end your cell phone service for you. You have to choose to do that. You chose to go do all these things for yourself, or your legal guardians did when you were a minor child, which is their right to do as your parents or whatever. So you can't close the Federal Reserve for your neighbor, but you can close the Federal Reserve and shut it down for you. Now, if you choose to go close all bank accounts, close your checking account, empty your savings account, get rid of all credit cards, all of that, stop using the Federal Reserve fifth plank central bank system. Is that easy? Well, hell no, it's not easy. It's very hard. Very hard indeed. Is it a struggle? Absolutely. But I'm sure you've heard the adage, freedom isn't free. See, you throw around pithy things like that, but you never really stop to think about it. See, the Federal Reserve is a convenience item under civil commercial law. Everything that is convenient robs you of rights. And it's not like those rights are taken away. What it really is it robs you of the access to the rights because in order to get this convenience items are all under the civil law, and most of them are under civil commercial law. Even worse. So if you're wanting convenience, then be happy to be a voluntary bond servant and sit down, shut up, and ride the back of the bus. If you want to be a free man, then there's a lot of individual effort, work, sacrifice that has to be made. Because you're going to now be, if you do that, you're going to be following the adage in the Bible to be in the world, but not of the world. Now, Christians are just, absolute morons when it comes to this. That word world in that section of the Bible, and in most times you read the word world in English translations, it's going to be the Greek word cosmos. And everybody thinks, oh yeah, world, they're like, because of Carl Sagan, his book Cosmos was referring to the universe. The problem is the word cosmos in the Greek has a general definition meaning of an apt and harmonious arrangement. So when Carl Sagan looked up at the stars in the sky, in the night sky, he said, wow, what an apt and harmonious arrangement, a cosmos. But the specific definition of cosmos, an apt and harmonious arrangement, goes to things like constitutions. Is the U.S. Constitution an apt and harmonious arrangement? Is government an apt and harmonious arrangement? Is a civil law body politic an apt and harmonious arrangement? So any social order, social compact, body politic, civil law systems, those are apt and harmonious arrangements according to those that are part of that apt and harmonious arrangement. So that's your cosmos, that's your world. This is, I think I've covered this in other videos. When the Messiah was before Pontius Pilate at his first trial there, in his arraignment, it was really not a trial, it was an arraignment. And he says, he enters a plea of, well, my kingdom, the Messiah now, this is Yeshua saying, my kingdom is not of this world. He's not talking about earth. He's talking directly to the Roman proconsul, Pontius Pilate, who's sitting as judge. He's saying, my kingdom is not of the Roman world, the Roman cosmos, the Roman social order, the Roman system. Now, why is he saying that? Because his kingdom had no treaties, no contracts, no covenants, no constitutions in Rome. So if you want to end the Federal Reserve, you got to stop making it part of your cosmos. But if Fred down the street wants the Federal Reserve to be part of his cosmos, his world, you can't stop Fred from banking. You have to, this is the hardest thing for people to understand. They want to do everything as a collective to make changes. You can't do that. You didn't bind yourself up as a collective. You bound yourself up individually, so that the only person who's responsible for undoing what you did is you. Nobody can force you to do anything. There's no banker that ever held a gun to your head and made you apply to open a checking account or a savings account or get a credit card or apply for a loan or any of that. Nobody, the government doesn't hold a gun to your head. Everything is done by voluntary consent. Now, certain things are done by, you have to dissent. Otherwise, they're automatic. The classic example of that is 14th Amendment federal citizenship. If you want to be a citizen of Washington, D.C., of Congress, under the 14th Amendment, that's automatic. You must dissent and say, no, I don't want that. Under Public Law 15, United States Statutes at Large, Chapter 249, pages 223 through 224 of 1868, which is codified at Title 8 of the U.S. Code at Section 1481, I believe. Where you can, what they call ex patre, come out of the Father. You die to the Father. Remember in the Scriptures, you're to call no man father upon the earth. That's government. It's talking about government. Remember, you're to have no gods instead of before, or masters, lords. You're to be a free man under the Creator. But you can't do that unless you're operating in His law. It's the kind of the parable that I use a lot is, for civilians that are under this civil commercial law system, bound up to the Federal Reserve and being a taxpayer with a Social Security number and state birth, a person with a state birth certificate creates the person, the marriage licenses, all of this. That creates your person, citizenship, this legal fiction that you operate under and you animate. This is necromancy in the Bible. This is giving life or raising the dead. A person is a dead legal fiction, and you have to animate it by using your natural life that God gave you to animate this legal fiction to operate as a person on the civil law stage, to go open bank accounts. Okay? If you want to kill that person, sometimes I refer to this is what Paul's talking about, a lot of it, when he's referring to you got to kill your old man. If you're going to truly repent, you've got to change a lot of the things that you're doing to come out of her, my people. Come out of who? The Babylonian system, the harlot, the great whore. This is all part of the great whore. The human civil law system is the great whore. It's the great Babylon. It's the Rome. It's everything. And the United States does it. The United Kingdom does it. Russia does it. China does it. All civil law nations on earth are of the great whore Babylon. That's their origin. They operate the same. The alternative, there's only one alternative. And it's to return to a form of law that you can't change. You're not the author of it. You just learn it, propagate it, do it, keep it, protect it, live by it. You can't alter it. You don't have that authority. In fact, the Scriptures say twice. When God tells you something more than once, He means it. He said, you shall not add to this law or take away from it. See, the Jews added everything to it with their Talmud and their Takanot and their Ma'asim of the rabbis. And the Christians take away from it. They say most of it's been nailed to the cross. We don't have to keep that old law anymore. Well, if you don't have to keep that law anymore, then you don't have access to your rights. You're sitting around, running around claiming you've got God-given rights, but you also say that law was nailed to the cross. Do you see how foolish this is? Do you see your folly? And it's because you went to a 10th plank government-run education system, whether that was a private school where the government controls the curriculum, homeschool where your parents are 14th Amendment federal citizens with state-issued marriage licenses and state-issued birth certificates, and that's what you have. And that curriculum is controlled by the government as well. Your master, your God, your father, Patronus. I'm a patriot. I share a common father with all my other U.S. citizens, right? You're a patriot. Patre, father. It's a substitute father, and you were to call no man father upon the earth. Now, this isn't talking about your natural dad that procreated with your mom. This is talking about these civil systems that you're complaining about. Wake up. The Bible is a book of law and government, good government versus bad government, good law versus bad law. And it gives you example after example after example of what happens to you when you choose the wrong way. Choose you this day whom you're going to serve. Are you going to serve the gods your father served on the other side of the flood? Or are you going to choose to serve the God of creation? That's it. Those are the only choices you have. You're either going to be bound up to the human civil law system as a person, or you're going to return to being a man, male or female, under the law of nature and nature's God. As codified, the human civil law part of that, if we want to steal a term from this other system, is codified in the scriptures. That's why it has these two parts. The law of nature, which are the things that we think of like the law of gravity, the law of thermodynamics, things like that. But then there's the law of nature's God, which applies to men because we are the sentient beings created in the image of that creator, who were told to go and dress and keep this creation and be the stewards of this. We are the gods. And we can either act as an individual God in that image, or we can collectively take that power and authority that we're given by our Creator and pool it into a civil law body politic and create our own gods in substitute of the Creator God ruling in our hearts and minds. Civil government. And it doesn't matter if it's a monarchy, an oligarchy, a democracy, that's creating your own God. So if you want to end the Fed, you can do that. There's no one stopping you from ending the Fed in your life. You just can't force your neighbors to stop using the Federal Reserve. If you want to end shopping at Walmart, you can do that. If you want to end being an employee in commerce and owing income tax, you can do that. But you'd have to know how. And you'd have to know how to do it righteously so that you don't get thumped. Because anytime you do something, if you're not doing it righteously under the common and natural law, then the God that has control over that thing that you're trying not to do anymore, but you're still doing it because of your ignorance, he's going to come and thump you. I don't know how many times I've seen these tax protesters. They just dumb as posts. They don't get it. They think the government is usurping power, but they're not. They're controlling what is theirs. Render to Caesar that which is Caesar's, and render to God that which is God's. If you're going to engage in the civil commercial law system, you better pay all of the tribute, all of the burnt sacrifices to that God has imposed in his law. Or he's going to come and thump you and bring a curse upon you. You see how simple this is? It's so simple a child can understand, but adults who are just blinded by their foolishness can't see it. They have scales over their eyes and a bunch of cotton in their ears, and they make foolish memes. Anyway, that's all I got to say for today. You guys take care of yourself. Repent. Seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Goodbye.